Hi, my name is Dick Kuchin. I'm here in Newport Beach with Happening Now with Hammer.
Do you have a, and I know this is a hard question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because that's my job. Do you have a favorite player that you coached?
You know what? And probably this is the stock answer that most coaches give.
I don't
when
like
you
stock
have 18
answers.
players in the NBA, you go, well, all those guys are good. And the truth of the matter is, I still stay, even in a different profession that I'm in now, I still stay in very close touch, with a lot of the players. I think one of my really favorite players was a guy by the name of Bill Hanslick that played at Notre Dame. I had been out looking for an off guard all summer long at all the basketball camps around the country. And I came back to the office, and there was a knock on my door, and it was a dad, and it was Bill Hanslick's father had a canister with him of a film. And I looked at the film, and I yelled into Digger. I said, Digger, this guy can really play. And he said to me, Kuch, you've been all over this summer. We're looking for a guy, and now a father knocks on the door, and you're taking a look at a tape. And I said, look, what's it going to cost us? I'll drive up to Beloit, Wisconsin. Bill was an interesting story because he was from Oregon, but moved to Beloit, Wisconsin during his high school career. So he kind of fell between the cracks. And he came to Notre Dame. He didn't play for the first year as a rookie, but we were playing Marquette University, who had a great player by the name of Butch Lee. And Butch Lee went for like 12 or 13 points the first half. And we were walking in and not doing very well in the game and had to win that game to get to the NCAA tournament.
When hasn't Marquette done well, though, right?
Well, and they had Al McGuire as a coach, and he was great. Yeah. But Digger turned to me and said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Digger, why don't you take a chance on Hanslick?" And he put Hanslick on Lee, and Lee scored 1 point in the second half, and we went on to win that ball game and do very, very well in the NCAA tournament. So I always appreciated the work ethic of a player like Bill Hanslick. And he played in the NBA, epilogue to the story, he played in the NBA for, 13, 14 years. So he became a great player.
So, Kuch, it's whenever you do something for a long period of time like yourself, you were at Yale 20 years?
I was there for 14, Notre Dame for let's see, 5 years, and then 4 years, and then at the University of California for 8 years. So a long road,
Yeah, but a lot of people don't know this. When you were at Yale, you guys didn't have athletic scholarships for basketball, did you?
We did not, and I think it's a little different now, Hammer. Than probably when you were at Yale, or than it was when I was certainly there. It's a difficult place to build a team, because you're walking into someone's house and telling them, what a great education they can get and achieve.
And you get to pay for it.
And you're also going to pay. I don't know. I don't have any idea today what it costs to go to a school like Yale, but I'll bet you it's upwards of $50,000 or $60,000 a year.
I think it's one of those schools where if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Right.
I think it's that situation.
And actually, I was recruiting a kid from South Dakota, Rapid City, South Dakota, and his father was a farmer. And I'm from the East Coast. I'd never been on a farm. Dad took me out on his truck. He was a cattle rancher, and he drove me around on his truck, and and we're bouncing all over the place, and I'm asking the top 200 stupid questions for a guy from New Jersey that when he gets too far away from cement gets a little bit, troubled. And
you were worried.
I was worried, So all of a sudden, I'm asking, well, where do the cattle eat? How do they get back to the barn? He said, hey, Coach, it doesn't work that way. They're out here. We'll drop some hay if they really need it. And then all of a sudden he slammed on the brakes, and he had a gun rack in the back of his truck. And he pulls the gun out, and he saw a coyote, up the hill, out yonder. So he starts firing at that coyote, which starts to traverse up the hill. And I'm thinking to myself, in New Jersey when they pull out guns, it's for a whole different reason. But But the interesting thing is, this guy's ranch was worth a bundle.
Yeah, but the coyote doesn't fire back.
No, it doesn't fire back. But apparently, it was getting into the herd and stuff like that.
Sure.
And there was a bounty on that he would collect if he killed a coyote. But an example like that, this guy had a huge ranch, but the cash flow that he had wasn't really going to be enough to take advantage of paying for a Yale education. But somehow he worked it out. And his son came to Yale. His name was Bo Lintz, and he became a terrific player. He's a great guy, so that was a good thing.
Maybe the Yale cafeteria had good steaks for the year. Who
Yeah,
knows?
well, I will tell you this.
It might have been coyote. But.
No, it wasn't coyotes. But I will tell you this. I can remember going down to pick his dad up when he visited campus. He was coming off an airplane at the New Haven airport, and he had this huge suitcase. And I said, "What do you got that suitcase for?" He said, "It's full of venison, Coach." I said, "Oh, that'll go over well here in New Haven."
Coach, when you were at Yale, was it the Lee Stadium that you were at? Which stadium were you playing in?
We played in Payne Whitney Gymnasium, which is right on campus.
Right.
And anybody that's familiar with Payne Whitney will probably remember the building because it almost looks like a cathedral.
Oh yeah.
They've renovated it now, but it's a huge building. And Yale was a very interesting place, and the students that you got at Yale were academically very, very strong. I mean, these people were bright as could be. And
you know what the graduation rate back then was for Yale? 97%.
Yeah, I was going to say everybody that I had graduated. But the interesting thing about the admissions process at Yale for athletes is they have a thing called the academic index. And that academic index is a combination of ranking class and board scores and your afternoon scores. And they would give those all a medium. And that rank for your entire class that you were bringing in had to equal what the ranking class was for the senior class that had graduated. So you're always trying to fool around with that a little bit, try to find a kid that was interested in basketball that had 1,800 on the college boards that was number one in his class. So
I got to ask Kuch one thing here, okay? You had a Cassidy's burger the other night in Newport Beach. You love that burger, right?
Yeah.
But what's the best burger in New Haven, Connecticut?
Oh, yeah. Well, the burger in New Haven, Connecticut was invented.
That's where it came from, right?
That's exactly where it came from. And I can't remember the name of the place, but, it's the one thing you don't want to do when you go there is say, could I have a little ketchup on that burger? They throw you out, that's it. It's like the soup Nazi. Boom, you're gone.
That's true. So listen, as a young guy right now who plays basketball or football or whatever, baseball, whatever it is, and decides he wants to get into coaching, what's your best advice for that guy or gal?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people do ask me that question, and I will tell them, let's pick three coaches. So let's pick Digger Phelps and let's pick Lute Olson. Both of them are, Hall of Fame coaches. And let's figure out how they got, and throw Jerry Tarkanian in, let's figure out how they got from point A to point B and find out where they started. Lute actually started here in at Marina High School, and then he went to Long Beach City College, then he went to Long Beach State, then he got the Iowa job, and then he got the Arizona job. He was successful at each place. Digger's route was completely different. He coached at a small grade school, and then he got a job at the University of Pennsylvania as an assistant coach. Actually, when I was playing at Rider University, Digger was a teammate of mine, and he was older and graduated. And one of the things that really helped him out was he scouted the NYU team that was number 3 in the nation. And Rider was a school that played, the kind of middle of the pack Division I programs, well, of which there are a lot of on the East Coast, like Siena and Canisius and Niagara and that sort of thing. But this game against NYU had a player by the name of Happy Hairston and another guy by the name of Barry Kramer that both went on to play brilliant careers. Digger scouted that game, and we happened to win that game on 2 final free throws, and then it got out to Digger scout at that game, and all of a sudden people became interested in him, more interested in him as a coach. So even to this day, I was the guy that made the 2 final free throws. So Digger thanks me every time he gets a chance to do that, and he doesn't thank very many people a lot. No, he does. He's a great guy, and he was a big part of my career as well. So the other information I would give somebody is, get out and meet people and get to know people. The National Basketball Coaches Association, I became a member of it the very first time. It was different then. All the coaches would meet in the lobby at the NC2A tournament. You'd meet Adolph Rupp and John Wooden and Bob Boyd and all the really big names, and get to know them and actually become friends with them.
Let me. One thing we didn't touch on before we go is how did you like working for ESPN?
I really enjoyed it. I did it in between kind of coaching jobs. In coaching, you're hired, you're fired, you're retired, you're rehired. But I started doing that, and I really enjoyed it, and worked with some great guys. I actually had an opportunity to work with a guy by the name of Vern Lundquist in one of the NC2A games, and that was a tremendous experience. But I did all the Big East games, and worked for a group of people out here in California called Lorimar Sports when they started. So I really enjoyed it, and the folks at ESPN are really fun. If I probably didn't have to immerse myself in my profession, my next profession, I probably would have enjoyed still doing that.
I think that it sounds like when you were dealing with kids at that like academic level at Yale, there almost is an even greater need for developing like nuanced approaches between just instructing people how to play well and really coaching. Because I've only done a little surf coaching in my day, right? And as I've worked with people, I notice some people can try and tell you what to do, but when somebody knows how to break down the nuanced mechanics of how you properly execute something in a way that your communication style resonates with, I think there's a lot more to it than just having a good guess for what the kid needs to do.
It's an interesting observation, okay? And why it's an interesting observation is everybody's different. Everybody's got a different button, okay? Kids at Yale were very, very smart, and they did want to learn that way. They did want to go, okay, well, why? Other guys would never ask you that question. Al McGuire told me one time that he would only recruit kids that had cement or asphalt driveways. And the reason was they didn't ask the question why, and it was a joke. Al was a great guy, and he was a very, very good friend. But the truth of the matter is that everybody's a little bit different. When you approach them and you're trying to make them better as a player, you better understand that to get the maximum out of it. That's why you see some coaches say, well, I don't get on that kid a whole lot because he really can't take it, and I'll manage this other player a different way because he needs to know the nuances of what we're looking for him to do. Sounds to me like you're that guy, that you would have needed that. And as a coach, I think you've got to understand that.
I even feel like when we had Perillo in here,
right?
We had an MMA boxing coach in here with an awesome professional track record. But
sure.
Then hearing his approach with his athletes as well, it's just interesting to me when I hear the skill level get expressed to that degree.
But a lot of times you look at this thing, and Perillo had some issues, but he had a great track record.
Yeah.
And he's an amazing coach. But there's, and I don't know how to say this correctly, but you have those super athletes, and then you have those super coaches, right? But you don't have both of. They're not the same. You're not the same guy.
Yeah.
Normally you don't have the Michael Jordan that's going to be the Michael Jordan coach also.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing, Hammer, is that you don't, anybody that tells you that they can get through to every kid is not being really honest with you.
Sure.
Because sometimes kids, you just mesh with certain people, and you hope that it's, a majority of the people that you're working with. And some people are more difficult to get through to. And, they kind of fight you almost. It's not really fighting you, but they're not taking what you're giving them. Other kids, other players, they'll they'll go, okay, I understand this. And it's a little bit like, you're in a dark room and a crack in the door opens up, and all of a sudden this amazing amount of light opens up and you see everything, and that's really what you're looking to do when you're working with kids. You just want to get them to see that light a little bit. And once they see that light, Kevin Johnson was a great example. All of a sudden, the sky's the limit for them, because you can just notice that they get better and better and better at whatever they're doing. And I don't care whether it's basketball or academics, the same thing works, because a lot of these guys I coached at other schools might not have been that academically alert when they came to the place. So you're sitting down at the University of California which is the number one, state university in the country, and you're competing with students that are really top-notch students, and all of a sudden you're coming in from the basketball community where you've maybe been pushed along a little bit, and you've got to go, I'm sitting in this class and they're talking about things, and it's like going right over here. So you need to have somebody take you under your wing, academically.
I better say a little shout out here, Cal Berkeley. My brother-in-law, one of my brother-in-laws, went to Cal Berkeley and went to the J School there and became a professor, a journalist professor. Great school. But guys, listen, we want to hear about your favorite coaches. Let us know in the comments. We love you. We'll see you next time.